My problem statement was, when Otter Pops are placed in the freezer, have you noticed that they don't all freeze at the same time? And what I was testing was the pH levels and see how that affected the freezing rate of the Otter Pops. My hypothesis was, if we test the Otter Pops pH levels, we can conclude that Otter Pops freeze at a different freezing rate based on pH levels, because acidity may cause a chemical reaction when putting Otter Pops in the freezer. I predicted that the flavors of Otter Pops were going to freeze differently based on the pH levels. And I tested the pH levels of each Otter Pop, and they're right here. My constants were the flavors of the Otter Pops being used. The independent variable were the Otter Pops, the flavors, and the dependent variables were the pH levels effects on the freezing rate. The other thing we tested were I boiled the Otter Pops in a pot to see how fast that would freeze. But those actually froze faster than the other ones. And I noticed that the pH level didn't have an effect on the freezing rate, because there was a pH level for the Concha Punch for 3.5, and that took 2 hours. But then for the 3.4, it took 2.5 hours. But then over here, I had another one, 3.4, but it froze in 2 hours. And then I also tried freezing the water inside the Otter Pops, and those froze way faster than the Otter Pops themselves.
Okay. You have 2 minutes 41.
And then this is the data for the Otter Pops that I didn't boil in the beginning, and this is what I noticed about them after I put them in the freezer and took them out. Oh, and I also tested the pH levels after I took them out to see if it changed. It didn't change. And then I also I boiled the Otter Pops.
Can you talk about your conclusions, what you'd research in the future, and how this might connect to things that you learned in the class?
Well, I concluded that the pH levels, which was what I was testing, didn't affect the freezing rate of the Otter Pops. And for the future, I connected this to the coffee and snack shack, how fast they would freeze. But I think the ones that I boiled froze faster. I mean, we can't do that, so I guess it's just setting the temperatures for more cold in the freezer.
Can you talk about your results and the colors and the results that you discovered?
For the results, well, basically the strawberry, the grape, the punch one, and the lime, those froze faster. And the ones that took the longest were the grape, the raspberry, and the orange ones.
Okay. And what was your reasoning for why those, what was your conclusion based on that data?
Well, the only thing that I tested was the pH levels, which I think was something wrong. I could have tested maybe the flavors and the ingredients in there.
Okay.
Because I tested that, but the pH level doesn't seem to have an effect on them freezing.
Awesome. So you proved your hypothesis was not correct.
Yeah, it wasn't.
But you had enough evidence to do it. How many times did you repeat the study?
I did it twice.
Okay. We're at 37 seconds, so I'm going to go into Q&A. Talk to me about your literature review, please. What's some stuff that you learned in your literature review, please?
Well, basically for my literature review.
What are some of the questions I think that you researched?
The effects of why ice helps swollen tonsils, and I also reviewed digestion of food, and pH level, like what does pH mean, and background, and brain freeze. What causes the brain freeze?
Talk to me about that.
The brain freeze?
Yeah, we're still at 2 minutes of questions and answers, so you're fine.
Oh, okay. Well, basically, when you eat too much ice cream, it like changes the temperatures dramatically. So then your brain gets swollen, which causes pain in your forehead, and that's what they call the brain freeze.
Okay. Awesome. And another question would be, if you were to repeat this, what would you do differently if you were to repeat this experiment, and how would you change your experiment?
Well, I would use a freezer and like not have anything in there and make sure that the temperatures are constant.
Oh, good, okay.
Because I did them in different rounds. So I first did the ones that I didn't boil and then the other ones. But then maybe the temperatures changed in the freezer.
And was there anything that surprised you about your experiment that you learned from it?
I thought the pH levels were gonna change.
The
like,
acid or the basic? And can you tell me again, based on your data, which one of the flavors has the higher pH?
The grape. The grape and the strawberry, they have a 3.5.
They have a 3.5, okay. But they were relatively close, it looks like, in data, so there wasn't much difference.
Mm-hmm.
And then were you using tap water or were you using bottled water?
Tap water.
Okay. So what we learned from that tap water is also, because tap water is supposed to be at a 2.0 on the scale, so that basically means there's other things in our tap water.
Yeah.
So I think that's something else that can definitely come out of it. Your rating system, so your quantitative data was rated a couple of different ways. It was rated by pH level. Did you follow temperature at all? Did you track temperature at all?
Well, the only temperature that I tracked was before I started the experiment. So when I tested the pH level, before I froze them, I tested the temperature.
Okay.
It was a constant because they were at room temperature, so they were 19.50 Celsius.
Uh-huh.
And then I also tested the water before I boiled them.
Good.
I made sure it was at 100.
So it was all at
Yeah.
okay, excellent.
And then I measured the time it took for them, and this was like the orange line shows boiled water pops. These were the constants, but then the water froze way faster, which is why it went down.
Yeah. And did you figure out why the water froze faster after being boiled?
No, I didn't test that.
Okay, that might be something that you could do as well as a follow-up. Thank you. The last thing, I just want to see your research report, if I could see where you had your laboratory notebook and that kind of stuff attached. Yeah.
I took pictures of it, but I have my journal in the side.
Oh, this is cool. That's what I wanted to see.
Test that for me.